Mark. Maybe another quiet meeting today with more folks on holiday or vacation, I suppose. You're muted. Or my headset's not working.
Nope, it was me. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good deal. Yeah, I think it's going to be a really short meeting. Radek and Adam are both out today, so I think we're just going to get a couple of people. And there's nothing on the agenda anyway. So probably the biggest the biggest news in all of this, right, is that there's like 10 or 15 closed PRs, which is amazing. I'm super excited about that because it's going to make my Thursday mornings less bleak.
Excellent. Yeah, I think we got through all the core and common ones that were marked sale already.
We do have a bunch more. I mean, there's a fair amount here that's still old, but it's far better than it was 2 weeks ago.
I think there's still some more for maybe Blue Store and RTW.
Yeah, let's see. Well, we can go through them later, maybe. Good morning, Nick.
Morning.
Hey.
I nearly missed it. The clocks have gone back here.
Oh,
It wasn't
sure.
until I just saw your email pick up.
Yeah, I sent that out a little late, but I'm trying to be better after Greg prodded me to start sending those emails again.
Yeah, no, it's because you put IE right now. That's what triggered me to realise the clocks had changed.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I don't think we're gonna have too many people though, because we've got folks out on holiday today, so I think it's gonna be a small group. And actually, this might be the group. We're 5 minutes past the hour, so there's a lot of movement on PRs this week, which is really good. That's what we were talking about earlier. There's actually a variety of new ones, and I think Radek was driving a lot of this. He's got 3 new PRs this week, which is crazy. I'm excited about his hyper combined buffer list. I think that's really good. Now that he's got PR for it, I think I want to apply that along with some of the other stuff that's been done recently and try to look at some of those OMAP tests again, even if they're a little flawed because they're making objects for everyone with Rados Bench. It'd be really quick just to rerun it and see if it helps, and I think it might. So. Yeah, all of this bufferless stuff would be good. Anything that touches encode, I think, is going to have that improves encode, I should say. I think is going to have a positive effect on those. I don't know anything really about this BlueFS read work that Igor has been doing. I don't know if he was mentioning that in the Blue Store stand up or not. I didn't see it. It was kind of out of the blue for me. So Sage is working on it. He's reviewing it, I think. Just in the very, very brief look, brief overview, I guess. I when I looked at this, I don't know. I think Sage is asking a lot of questions about it because I'm not sure if he really knows what's going on either. What else? This one by Eric. I guess he's doing new things looking at the IO throttler. Yeah. I wasn't even aware he was still working on this stuff, so that's good. What else? Yeah, more
The IO throttler work is, I think, actually started being picked up by a student from UC Santa Cruz. Eric just put that PR up to let folks look at see his current branch where it ended up.
Cool. Do you know more about that, Josh? Is it like still ongoing or?
Yeah, it's still ongoing. It's we haven't fixed the problem where we have too few things in the op queue compared to the object store queues, and therefore can't do good prioritization within the op queue. So that's the main issue we're looking at now.
Cool.
To be able to continue the QoS work.
Sage mentioned on the Blue Store side, let's see, the adaptive throttle PR, that we can't really do some of the other stuff until that is tested and in place. Is that?
Yeah, it's the same kind of that's the same issue he's talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. More stuff to do.
Yep.
So there's a whole like chunk of closed stuff here, which is fantastic. That's what I was super excited about earlier. For anyone that's here that is the author of any of this, I guess, if it's still worth looking at, feel free to bring it back. But it's nice that we're starting to clear out some of this old stuff that's just kind of languished for a year or more sometimes. What else? Updated. This librd one, I don't have any idea about, other than that they seem really excited about it and there was good ideas. So it's always nice to see people excited about what they're doing. So that's good. There is this really old PR from Adam. Is Adam here? No, he's not. I object, and that got updated. That was like over a year old, I think. And just in the last month now, it's been getting new commits and new discussion. So we'll see where that goes, but that's good. And then the adaptive throttle one that we were just talking about. So that's about it. Any other thoughts about any PRs from folks?
I'm excited about Radislav's combined buffer lifts stuff. That looks really neat.
I'll add you to the list of people doing the happy dance then, Casey.
Indeed.
We talked about doing something like they started doing something like this before years in 2011, I think. And somehow we kept getting diverted into other stuff, like trying to use vector and other things. But this is great. But I think one doesn't need a hangable pointer. I think one needs some other location for this.
Yeah, naming things is hard. But with respect to Adam's Objector PR, if I understand right, he's almost ready to push another update, and I think that it's pretty much ready at that point, other than testing and benchmarking. But it does add kind of a new librados interface, and he's calling it Rados Unleashed. But that would be like the kind of public API, and if people are interested, giving that part a review, I think would be good.
Yeah, I'd like to take a look at that.
We were talking internally in the office about the issues of retiring interfaces and ABIs and stuff. Does that have a versioning already in it?
The API does not. We tend to just add new functions with numbers after them.
No, I meant the Liberators Unleashed. How that's being done?
Oh.
Do we want that? And I guess it doesn't exist yet.
I haven't seen it yet, so I'm not sure what the approach is. Casey, you know?
I was just knitting.
I don't think there's any versioning in the name spacing for it, but it just adds a new header under fluid/Rados Unleashed, I think.
Yeah, it's based on the discussion we had internally here. If there's a way to make it easier to evolve things like buffer lists and stuff like that get exposed in this interface, I want to do whatever that is.
Yeah, I guess that's what Akif has been working on actually, is splitting out the C++ versus C bindings so that we can increase the SO num for the C++ library without affecting the C library.
Yeah, that's huge, I think.
Yeah. The C++ the ABI and API tends to change a bit just due to C++ versions and compilation options. It's kind of crazy to tie those together. We've already merged several bufferless changes from Radic for Nautilus that'll go into the new Liberatos.so or liberados pp.so.3. So we can continue merging more changes to the C++ interface now.
Yeah, there's a thread on the mailing list, Librados 3, I think.
Yeah,
And I think that Jason was kind of suggesting that we get rid of the C++ interfaces entirely,
happy with that.
at least as a public thing, which is an interesting idea.
Did I hear you right on that? That seems crazy. Maybe not.
It does seem adventurous.
I mean, given how much effort it is to try to make C++ ABI stable, it might make sense to just say we're not trying to guarantee stability for the C++ API anymore at all.
Yeah.
We should be able to vary the compiler and all those options and other things independently for any given release. A downstream or a particular build for a particular OS ought to handle that.
Mm-hmm. Because pretty much everybody uses the C interface for integrating with Liberados already.
Okay.
There's not a whole lot of users of the C++ one, other than our internal stuff.
Well, that could change at any time. So we sort of need we need a policy that survives the latter, because unless we're gonna fail to expose it.
I guess the other option is just continuing to bump up the SO version every time we add new changes. Basically for every major release, if we continue having changes like this.
I guess reducing the maintenance burden is nice, right? I mean, if no one's really using the C++ stuff.
Well, I mean, there's maintenance because we're all RBD and RGW and MDS are all using that stuff. But in terms of preventing us from making changes, like to buffer list, I think that's the bigger issue.
Yeah, really. Now that we've gone through that, I think that's true.
Along that line, Adam seems keen to add some kind of type erasure to buffer list itself. I'm not sure how far that's going to get us, but could be interesting also.
How far along is he in that?
Good question. I'm not sure if it's still just conceptual at this point. I think he's been working mostly on objector stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would just treat it as input to the previous discussion. I mean, if we want to look at something like that, in a month or two, that would change the ABI. Indeed, the API, I guess.
Yeah.
But
We're already bumping the SO version for Nautilus, so if we could get as many API changes we want to make in now, that's a good thing.
All right. Any other comments on pull requests, guys? All right, let's move on then. I have no discussion topics this week, so let's open it up. Anyone have anything they want to talk about outside of pull requests?
Just
Nick,
quickly. Yeah, sorry.
I was just going to pick on you.
International delay there. Yeah, just what I emailed you about in the week about the block DB partition size. Just I found the minimum. I don't know if that's worth advertising anywhere.
You found the minimum block DB partition size?
Yeah, you know what we were talking about last week about having what's the minimum size to make sure level 3 fits on the SSD.
Yes. Okay, so yes, okay.
So that's 30 gig. So you've got to have at least 30 gig, otherwise you won't get anything above 2.5 gig on SSD.
Is that like a guaranteed 30 gig, or is that just kind of typically where you start seeing the transition happen?
So, 29, you don't get any of level 3 at all. I backfilled an 8 terabyte disk with a 30 gig SSD partition, and nothing so far has gone on to the slow DB counter.
Okay. So and that's all with our default settings right now in terms of the number of levels and the buffer sizes and everything else. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean that's probably fine, because I think anybody putting in new nodes are probably going to go for higher than that. So for RBD, that's fine. For people upgrading, like I found myself, it wasn't obvious that I had to sort of try and target that size. The only additional problem I think some people may encounter is if they're like, I'm guessing RGW, which has got larger RocksDB requirements. The next step up from that is probably going to be 300-ish.
Yeah.
That's quite an investment of SSD people are going to have to make if they want to fit that.
Yeah. So maybe that's a good argument to change the hierarchy so that it's closer to like 80 or 100 or something as the kind of next split, and then the previous split would be whatever, some smaller multiple.
Yeah, I sort of started looking at that, and every time I sort of was working it through in my head, suddenly one value just made like the next one be even worse. So it was hard to come up with a good solution unless you drop the number of the level multiplier, but then obviously you get a lot of amplification. So there's sort of no real right way of doing it.
Yeah. I suspect Matt is probably over there with popcorn, right?
I was typing out an email about Bangalore, so what did I miss?
We're talking about RocksDB and how there's no very, we're talking about the hierarchy of levels and how difficult it is to kind of. So right now in BlueStore, when you hit like level 3 or level 4, right, you have to have the entire level on the database partition, otherwise it ends up falling over to the block device. And figuring out that hierarchy is tricky and error prone, and I think, well, Nick, you were just saying it was hard to find alternate hierarchies that kind of universally work well, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, there's two challenges. I mean, for myself personally, I found it a challenge to actually know what the size was needed, because if you add up what the level was meant to be, I was getting like 28 or 29 gig, but it actually turned out to be 30. So it was just a bit of trial and error. But then, yeah, you're correct. Trying to get it to fit your actual data set is going to be the next issue if you're going above level 3.
So Matt, the gist of it is, right, that if you've got flash storage, you can have some amount of the database on it. But at some point, as the amount of data in the database increases, it becomes very difficult to figure out what a generic hierarchy should look like that would fit anyone's scenario.
In terms of selecting the number of levels you're going to, this is totally under our control, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, one idea, right, is that we could say, okay, if they've devoted this much space to the database, maybe we could like automatically tune the size of SST files and the amount of data stored per level and the multiplier and all this stuff to try to like optimize the problem so that it will try to fit as much of the last, make it so that the largest level fits onto the SSD, and that the next one mostly then falls on the block device, so that you utilize your flash storage as much as possible. But we'd have to go through and like write something custom to do that, and it sounds like even then it's tricky.
Well, even if you do it, well, it's like it sounds helpful, but general compactions are going to eventually spill down to the block device in any case.
Yes, eventually. I guess the goal would be to delay that as long as possible, right?
It seems like that's like an analytics. There's an analytic solution to the size of the database that it should be, given the number of level size and the multiplier, right? So we should be able to do that backwards, reverse that, and go from here's the size of partition, here's a set of tunings for XCB that let us use that maybe that space, or 80% of that space, roughly.
If I understand this correctly, Nick, you were saying that the trouble though with doing that is that you end up maybe with worse write amplification if you're trying to tune that. So is it?
Yeah, I mean, so the issue was that I had a 29 gig SSD partition, and me being new to BlueStore was like, yay, and then finding out only 2.5 gig was in use. And so I was looking at can we adjust this to sort of maybe suit, and there potentially is if you maybe said like if you've got less than 50 gig, then make sure level 3 is adjusted to fit whatever size that is, and then after that you would then say try and adjust level 4 to fit whatever size you've got. But the only real way to make it more granular would be to drop the level multiplier down. But from what I understand about how RocksDB works, that just means you end up doing more and more compaction because each level is not as far away from each other, if I've understood that correctly.
You could maybe experiment with and see what the behavior is.
Nick, what if you went the other direction? What if instead you pushed level 2 out to be bigger?
Yeah, same. I think, yeah, that's probably going the same way. It's just that, say you then made level 2 5 gig, you've then got to have 50 gig for level 3. So although you've got an extra, you've doubled the size of what's fitting in level 2, you've still, in my case where I had that, I started off with 25 gig partition. I've still got no way of actually using the bulk of that. So yeah. Probably what it is, you want to have cutoffs, and then say, like 0 to 10, you will try and resize level 2 within 0 to 10 gig. Level 3 will sort of be resized from 10 to 50. And go with that. So you're trying to maximize the use of the SSD by adjusting each level within a range.
I think part of the trickiness too, right, is that it's recommended that level 1 and level 0 be very similar to each other. You kind of want level 0 to level 1 compactions to be very fast and very unobtrusive, sort of.
Yeah, I'm sort of slightly out my depth at this point of sort of being able to comment on that, but yeah.
The RocksDB guys themselves say that they don't even understand the kind of lay of the land with some of their tuning parameters in all cases. So I think you're in good company. None of us totally know what is optimal here.
Yeah, I mean, initially, I think the probably the biggest thing is maybe to have that noted somewhere. in their documentation, because at the moment there's just sort of like a flat percentage that's advertised, which obviously doesn't take into account these minimums of what you should try and target.
I wonder if before we kind of throw in the towel, though, maybe we should. I don't know the answer to this, but maybe Sage does. If there's any way that we can partially store a level on Flash.
Mm-hmm.
I've never actually understood what's holding us back there.
I mean, I did have one crazy idea, and I haven't done it because it is slightly crazy, and that was using LVM thin provisioning. Now, there's obviously a big risk about that if it ever does fill up and you run out of the underlying storage, but it would allow you to present, say, a whatever sized block device with the SSD. So it as long as it doesn't fill up, it's always going to sort of fit on that SSD, but the actual underlying storage would be consuming less space because it's thin provisioned. Or if BlueFS, could extend itself to do that functionality.
Yeah, I'm curious about the limitation of BlueFS there too. I think that's probably a good discussion with Sage.
Yeah.
But it seems
if
like
not Sage,
the OSD should be able to behave in a way that lets you use all the space that you give it.
if not Sage, possibly we could try to get Igor in, because I think he's probably the next person that's really looked at BlueFS closely.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it's a good question for next week.
Yeah. All right, cool. Anything else, guys? Anything else folks would like to talk about this week? All right. Well, then let's call it early, the day after Halloween, right?
All right, thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Josh. Have a good week,
Thanks, guys.
everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye, folks.